This week the bill for the industry reforms went into Parliament. We should see its introduction sometime in late 2018. And today I'm here talking with Rosy Sullivan from Australian College of Professionals about how you can prepare for the changes. Morning, Rosy.
Morning, David. Lovely to have you in our office, and great to be talking about the reforms. So finally they've gone to Parliament, we've got some movement, and yeah, it's exciting times.
It is. The reforms will bring in changes to our industry I think we haven't seen since about 1940, and some of them will be fairly significant. One of those has to do with training, and finally we're raising the entry-level standards again to enter our industry. So if you're certificate holders, what can they currently be doing to prepare for the changes?
Okay, there are lots of changes for entry-level, but let's talk about what's happening with the guys who are already in the industry, and to move them across from the certificate level to the licence level, which is going to be part of the reforms, that they'll have 4 years to move across. Obviously they can do it faster than that, and obviously to prepare for the reforms, it would be a great idea to actually get your licence pre the reforms coming in. So if they're coming in late next year, people have got nigh on a year to actually get to that, and to prepare for that they need to start looking at what their skill sets already are. So if they've been in the industry for a short time, then their skill sets within the property sector may be lower, and they won't receive as much recognition of prior learning. So they need to gather evidence. They need to, obviously they can talk to us about how to gather that evidence and the types of evidence they need. It would be sign-offs from their licensee in charge about the actual tasks they're doing now. So, or let's say somebody's a property manager and they're doing all of the tasks in property management. So a licensee in charge would be able to sign off on that. However, they may never have been to tribunal. So they would get a sign-off for the majority of the property management competencies, but not the one about presenting at tribunal. They'd need to do that training module. So there's a blended approach to how they can, or that's how we offer it here at the college, in terms of getting you across the line. So if you're an experienced salesperson, on the other hand, so you have never done property management, yeah, you'll be doing that course. Yeah. However, if you're an experienced salesperson, you may well have lots of experience there. And again, you may well have all of the experience as a salesperson, but work in an office that's never done auctions. So you've never prepared for an auction. So there's a little part of a sales unit that you would need to actually complete to get across the line for that. So every person that walks through the door is treated differently, because every person brings a different set of skills. And they may well have come from another industry where they've had experience managing staff, or they've had experience managing budgets and writing financial reports. Then again, that can be recognised based on the provision of, adequate evidence, and we work with each person individually to get them across the line with that. So it's a blended approach of training and recognition of prior learning. And of course, the sooner you get onto that, the sooner you can be recognised and complete those training modules and gain that qualification, the Cert 4 in Property Services, to gain a licence. As you said, getting your qualifications ready and making application to Fair Trading for your licence prior to the introduction of the reforms would be a great thing, because you're recognising that you actually do have the experience and the training. Post the reforms coming in, there will be a different process. There'll be, needing to provide experience and in a different way, depending on what comes in the regulations when it comes out of Parliament and back to Fair Trading for the regulations. It could be quite a significant change for how people will be assessed towards their licence.
Yeah, and we're kind of discussing with Fair Trading how that is determined and actually recorded against each person.
Absolutely, and I mean, we obviously, there's old systems where, lots of people who've been, in the workforce for a number of years will remember the old logbooks, and obviously we'll go to some sort of online version of that would be appropriate, and looking at the competencies that a professional agent would be demonstrating after a year in the industry, which is back to showing. So the reforms is a great thing, because it will have a combination of your training and some practical experience. So it's lifting the professionalism of our industry, which is a good thing.
And how can Australian College Professionals provide the necessary training?
Okay, we provide the training in all aspects. We if you want to come to class and you need to come to class and you're that type of a learner, of which many of us are, yes, we provide training for all of the licence modules. and they roll all the time. So it's always happening. However, if distance is an issue, or time is an issue, or you're best learning online, we offer all of the modules also online. We also offer it with distance education, so it's basically online with a paper book, because some people like the book, some people like it online. So we're catering to everybody's learning needs through that process, and we have trainer, assessor support. So if you're having trouble, there's a phone, there's an email, there's always somebody that can help people out. And obviously for EAC members, there's on whatever offer that we currently have for our licensing programs, there's a further discount available for EAC members, recognising that being part of a member organisation that is looking after the professionalism of the industry is a good thing.
And I think it's important certificate holders understand that once the reforms come in, they're going to receive a one-off certificate of registration for 4 years, and that certificate of registration will actually expire after those 4 years, and basically they won't be able to work in the industry for 12 months, at which time they'll be able to reapply for another certificate. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, we're just catching up really to most other industries, and other industries expect you to either have a certificate for or a diploma to even get a job within that industry. You compare it to the mortgage broking industry, you've got to have a certificate for before you can even start working in the industry. So it's about recognising the fact that our consumers expect our agents to be professionals. And to be professionals, they need some industry experience. So Fair Trading are bringing back that need for you to get your licence and some industry experience, and also that you need that high level of training and education that'll get you to that point. So, and there are lots of other ways of getting that, as well as, and I think the 4-year term, that's a good amount of time to be able to gain that qualification, because there's 24 units of competency in the qualification required for real estate. There's 20 units that you'll need to gain the strata qualification. There's 21 units for stock and station. So all of those changes that are happening across the board, if you want to take those 4 years to get to that point, then that's okay. But of course you'll be able to do it in 1 year if that's your experience. I think your question actually was, I've gone off on a tangent, which is fairly usual for me. But coming back to, is it a good thing about after 4 years being blocked out of the industry? Well, I think if you haven't shown the commitment to wanting to gain the qualification over a 4-year period and working to that level of professionalism, I don't think it's a bad thing at all for an industry to say, no, this is our standard, raise the standards and stick to those standards. So yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing at all for our industry and for our consumers. You've
used the word professional there, and I think that's where it comes back to, is as an industry we've got to provide a better consumer experience, and we really have to be more professional. You're aware of all the new models coming into play and the threats, and I think a lot of those can be offset or met by better trained agents.
Well, our consumers expect it.
Yeah.
So, it's something that we as an industry need to rise to. So I think that's a good thing. And, the government actually acknowledges, not just fair trading, acknowledges it in terms of raising the qualification bar, but from an education standpoint, the real estate qualification and the strata qualification are recognised skill deficit areas. So in terms of getting government funding to complete your training, you can either, if you're a new employee, you can get a traineeship, or there's other funding that ACP has access to, which is what's called a targeted smart and skilled funding, which is for experienced agents, so there can be some government assistance there for people to get their licences. So there's a whole range of ways that people can get it. So discounts for EAC members, government funding for new employees into industries. They could have worked in other places for up to 10 years, but if they're new to an organisation, they're eligible, well, they may well be eligible for a traineeship, and almost everybody is eligible for the targeted funding that we have from the Training Services New South Wales as well. Okay. So I think there's a great commitment from government to our industry to show that it is something where people need to get those qualifications. So
I think the other thing to point out is that while you're doing the licensing course and moving down that track, you won't be required to do the normal CPD either.
No, because if you're doing your licence training, I mean, that's legislative based, it's practical based, it's looking at case law. That's your CPD.
Yeah.
And that's a good recognition from Fair Trading to say that, yeah, you don't need to do it twice. So, you know, if you're out of the office or you're putting your head into the space of learning, then that's what CPD is about. It's about making your profession better, making you have a better understanding of what it is you're doing. And it shouldn't be harmful. You shouldn't have to do it twice.
No. So if you've got a certificate now and you want to work towards your licence, our recommendation is call Australian College of Professionals, talk to the team there, and they can get you on track to obtaining your licence. So moving on from the certificate holders, we've got our licence holders. So they'll now need 2 years experience before they can move to the new, what's at this stage called the licensee in charge licence category. What are your thoughts on that?
Don't like the name, but because it's confusing all of us, because it's about liability and all those things. It could well be called
agent in effective control, or basically
take the Victorian model. So
the top level.
Yeah, I think that would be great. And the fact that there will be able to be more than one licensee in charge within an office. And I think the fact that only a licensee in charge, or whatever that category happens to be called, that new license category happens to be called, they'll be the only people that will be able to actually put that final trigger on making a trust account disbursement. So there will need to be, if you look at your business structure from a sensible, practical point of view, there'll need to be more than one licensee in charge, a licence holder within an agency. So if the agent in effective control wants to take holidays, or is sick, or is away for or out of the office a lot when property management runs need to be done. So yeah, it's a good process, but to get there, yes, 2 years of practical experience and some additional qualifications. So
and additional CPD.
And additional CPD. So and again, that's okay, because it's about, if you're a licensee in charge, you have the authority to run a business, and to run a business you need more than just the practical skills of being an agent.
And hopefully, you and I have probably both experienced in our years in the industry the amount of really good salespeople that have thought, okay, I'm going to open my own business, go, and obviously they can sell, but running a business is totally different.
It is. It's a totally different beast,
yeah.
And that beast can get out of control sometimes. And and again, Fair Trading have recognised the fact that somebody running a business needs some additional educational support, then that's great, then that's being put in. So the CPD, the additional requirement will be around that leadership, the management, the skills building, the working with your team, your financial management, actually your business. I've been thinking about some of the issues, and there can be how to work with contractors, how to the tax implications of a whole range of things. Some of the issues that often financial planners or mortgage brokers look at, that an agent running a business needs to know to be able to discuss that with their sales team and their property management team for when consumers are asking questions about investments, and how to answer those without giving financial advice.
And stepping over that line.
Absolutely. So you've got to stay within that circle, and it's about the licensee in charge, or the agent in effective control, having the supervision of what's happening there. So yeah, so there needs to be more people who are going to be contractors and they're running their own little corporations are most likely going to need that category of licence as well. So there's a lot of people that need it. So it's either about having that experience already and having that recognised into the licensee in charge category, or if you gain that licence after the reforms come in, it'll be 2 years of experience of being an agent, recognising that experience, or having that experience recognised rather, and also having the higher level qualification. Or if you've got the certificate 4 in property services, it'll be a certificate 4 in business or management, or the leadership and management. So there's a diploma of leadership and management that we can certainly offer, which is, everybody already knows that ever listens to me, it is my favourite course, because it actually attacks what's happening inside you, inside your brain, and makes you look at leadership and management in a whole different way. There's also the Diploma of Property Services, so again, looking at leadership but from a property industry sector advantage. So there's a couple of different programs there that would be really good for anybody looking at becoming a licensee in charge. So even for those who are already, have the honorary title of licensee in charge and the liability that goes along with that, they're excellent programs just for CPD, and that would, people doing those programs, obviously that would meet their CPD requirements in the future.
Talking about CPD, under the reforms, we're going to move away from so many points to an hours-based system. So a licence holder will be required to do 3 hours of mandatory and 3 hours of elective CPD. Those holding the higher licensee in charge category will need to do an additional 3 hours business-related CPD on top of that. That's something we've been pushing really hard for, and I think at a government level there's been some pushback because a lot of other industries have CPD. I mean, what's your thoughts on the current CPD environment? We all know that it's broken, if I can use that word. Do you think what we've been pushing for will resolve some of the issues we currently face?
There's a couple of approaches here, I think. And I think some of it does come down to requirements on us as training organisations and you as industry bodies in terms of monitoring what is appropriate for our industry. I mean, you look at the other industries that we're involved with through this college, which is mortgage broking, financial planning, accounting. They all have CPD and have done for years. It's 25 points for mortgage brokers. It's massive amounts of training for financial planners. We even do some continuing legal education for the legal industry, obviously from a property perspective and a finance perspective. But they have 10 hours a year that they need to do. And so there's a lot of industries that have that. Teachers, we've all stopped our kids over the years from going to school on the pupil-free days where the teachers are having their professional development. So I think it's something that if we're going to regard ourselves as professionals in the property industry, that we should actually embrace. And I think you're right, it's been broken because I think nobody's actually embraced it. So, and it needs to be relevant, and I love the fact that there's going to be mandatory training and nominated, and that'll be legislatively based. So it will actually look at developing the skill levels of our industry. The elective side of it, I think that can still be linked to competencies and still be linked to our profession, but there can be some more of that sales development or business development, or in terms of getting more listings and how do you do certain things and how to
more skills-based training.
Yeah, it's more of what are traditionally seen as the soft skills. I like to call them the essential skills, but it's in the broader vocational sector they're deemed to be soft skills. And then that extra 3 hours for the licensees in charge on business and management and leadership, fantastic. So I think, but also Fair Trading need to monitor that, because at the moment we can guarantee you, Fair Trading know it, that there's a good proportion of the industry that never do CPD.
I think the figure was in the audits they performed, 25% of agents had ticked the box that they've done it but hadn't even done it.
Yeah, so there's two issues there. One, they haven't done it, and two, they're lying on a declaration back to Fair Trading. So there's a couple of issues there about the type of people that are actually doing that. I think 25% is probably conservative. So and I think if we want to be deemed to be professionals by the broader community and raise the image of agents as a whole, then we need to make sure from both the industry perspective, and so that's you and me, and from the Fair Trading perspective, that we are actually monitoring that. So I think a better monitoring system on how that happens, and I think it's great that they're talking about that it'll be the responsibility of RTOs, registered training organisations like us, to feed that back to Fair Trading. Fantastic.
Yeah, we're looking at electronic system.
Yeah, electronic system.
Where you about upload that it's been performed and it'll attach to their certificate or licence.
Yeah, and automatically reading across. I mean, technology's good. We should be embracing it on every level. So I think that would be a bonus. And I mean, is that being Big Brother-ish and over prescriptive in terms of how we're monitoring our industry? I don't know, at some point it's no different from anywhere else. You have to do it, therefore it should be lodged.
So you should be done it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of agencies, CPD, I've got to go do my 12 points, but I think they need to look at it a little bit differently and look at it. And I think that's somewhat due to the content and what's occurred over the years.
And there's some magnificent agencies that actually do way more than their requirements. So there's lots of agencies that we go into 4 times a year. So they're actually doing, in essence, 4 times their CPD requirement, because they're getting the same legislative base, they're looking at how they run their businesses, and they're doing it 4 times the whole offices because they deem education and development to be really, really valuable. So there's the difference between agencies that are being very professional and very successful and agencies that are not. So
I think that's the difference, and I think those agencies are the ones that are already offering that experience I spoke about before.
Yeah, and they are. So, you know, bring it on is, I think, and I think once people, let's go back to 2003 when CPD first came in, and the reaction from the industry was, oh wow, why have we got to do this, and why, we know what we're doing, and that's okay. We all as professionals deem that. I mean, I have to do professional development both as an agent, as holding a license, but I also have to do it as a vocational provider. So on all of those levels, I'm doing massive amounts of CPD and webinars, and I've done one this morning at 8 o'clock, logged on, did a webinar about compliance for training colleges. And I think if we're not constantly improving ourselves or challenging our minds, how can we come up with new ideas to make just the service that we offer better? And I think it took a couple of years for agents to realise that I'm actually getting something out of coming to CPD. So now we don't have the arguments that we had in 2003 with people. They just go, yep, happy to come, looking forward to coming back. I was down in DY yesterday, and every single person in the class was a return student that's going, yeah, but we talked about that last year, what's changed? So people, that other 75%,
it's encouraging.
A good dose of them are taking it seriously, and I think will embrace the new reforms.
Okay. So as far as Australian College professionals, can you want to outline the property related courses you can offer, because they're fairly wide?
They are. Now, how long have we got? Okay, from a CPD perspective, we offer well, everything. We'll start with CPD and then I'll carry through. For CPD, we offer CPD both face-to-face in seminars with additional reading. We offer it online. We offer it distance education. We offer it in-house. We tailor topics to whatever that happens to be. We offer it in sales, property management, strata, business broking, trust accounting. How exciting. There's more. On-site residential management, holiday letting, which is linked in with the on-site. We've just started running one in retirement villages for the agents that are working in the retirement village sector. And I feel as if I'm missing buyers agents. So we cover all of the licence categories and the topics within that. So, and within that we offer, the topics range from looking at cybercrime to looking at the legislation to looking at drug houses in property management and how you deal with it, looking at the short-term accommodation issues, looking at the new reforms to the Residential Tenancies Act, looking at the changes to strata and what's happened over the last year since the new legislation came in. So they're all the issues that we deal with across CPD. So a really broad range there. Either people can just log straight in and do it at 2 a.m. in the morning, or they can book in and come to classes. So again, depending on how you learn. And that's pretty much the same option for certificate of registration. We run certificate of registration in a variety of formats, and for real estate strata, stock and station and business brokers. So the specific modules that fit for each of those 4 certificates of registration. And we offer that online distance education and in different face-to-face tutorial modules depending on where it is. So regional areas, there's shorter modules, greater online, but a blended approach to that. For licensing, there's that, again, the blended approach. Some people bring skills to the table, and we go through a recognition of prior learning approach with them, and so they'll do get some units recognition of prior learning, they'll do some units by doing the actual modules. And again, in class, distance education, online. So
the other option that we can offer, as we do for some of the groups in our offices, is that we can tailor a training course to you, come to your offices or set up a venue, And
I mean, and that's in any type of. We've just finished a program with a big organisation where they had a lot of people that needed to be licensed. We looked at the recognition of prior learning. We mapped it across who needed to do what, and then we ran each of the modules, and we were running them 2 nights a week from 5 till 8:30. So, and it took 8 months to get them through, on that sort of program. But by the end of it, there wasn't time out of the workday. People were putting some skin in the game, if you like, in terms of putting their own time into it, and the organisation was paying. So it was an interest. Some people were on government funding and some people were not. So, it was an interesting blended approach to the whole thing. And then when you get to that licensing level, we offer all of the licensing programs. So we offer, and we have done for the last 14 years. So it's real estate, strata, stock and station, business broking, almost gone with the new reforms.
Yeah, you notice there's no business in the title anymore.
That's exactly right. However, we look at the business brokers, and you'll still have to have some skills to sell a business, because they are a different skill set. So we'll have skills courses for agents who want to do that, and there'll be CPD attached to it, obviously. And so I'm just trying to think of where I went. On-site license programs and buyers agents license programs, which is a bit of a dichotomy, I guess, between the real estate licence and the buyer's agent's licence, with the units that are covered in there and the specific buyer's agent's units. We also offer the Diploma of Property Services, which will be the new qualification that people will want to be getting to get their licensing in charge licence, if that's what it's called. And obviously the Diploma of Leadership and Management, which is another course that people will be, I think it's a sexier, better outcome course with better units in there in terms of the skills that people need to actually run a business. So, and motivate and encourage those around them to greatness. So yeah, we've got a lot of training programs specifically for the property industry, and they're all run face-to-face and online. So yeah, and obviously special offers for EAC members always.
I think it's quite an exciting time for the industry, and finally we can move towards better skilled and more professional agents. So if you've got any questions, you can call EAC on 1300 137 161 or visit eac.com.au, or visit Australian Lodge Professionals at acop.edu.au, or call
1300 88 48 10.
Thank you.
And talk to, there's loads of people here just waiting to talk to you.
Thank you, Rosie.
Thank you, David.